Well, hello everyone, and welcome to The Advocates. I am your co-host, Mark Iorio, along with my good friend, Al Cini. How are you?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
You know, there's a fellow to my right here who I've known for 26 years, 27 years. Mm-hmm. Steve Lang. He looks exactly the same as he did back then.
Changed.
He hasn't changed a bit. CEO of Danker. Steve, welcome to The Advocates. It's great to have you, man.
It's good to see you again after all these years, and thank you to both for inviting me to be here with you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's great to have you. You know, it's amazing to me. I honestly didn't know this, that Danker's been around since 1829,
Yes, sir.
right? And you've grown tremendously. You really have. It's a remarkable testament to you and your leadership and what's going on over the years, and you know, moving from one steward of the company to the next, and you're blessed to have that that mantle right now. So, tell us a little bit about the company first, and that ride. It's been a remarkable ride.
It's a great ride, not without its share of mistakes and bumps along the way, for sure. But I guess that comes with the territory. Yeah, the company started in 1829, which is a very long time ago. And as you said, I feel like I'm the current steward of a company that will exist hopefully for another 200 years. And it's been crazy. I mean, as you think about the company and some of the things that we've done and how we've grown, in the end of the day, any company, any organization is about people. Mm. And we are incredibly fortunate to have some of the best and brightest within our industry. And putting that team together and making them work, fluidly and in a way that's really seamless and support of our clients and some of our partners. It's been a journey, as I said. It's been at times very bumpy, but at times very, very, very rewarding. Not just for me, but I think for everybody in the company. And it's been a hell of a ride, and it's not over. And it'll hopefully continue well beyond my ability to take it.
That is great.
Talk a little bit, you mentioned your clients, and maybe talk a little bit about the promise you make to them and how you keep that promise. What is it you do for the client?
So in the end of the day, we provide several things for the built environment. So architecture, furniture, technology, and logistics for large corporations, healthcare clients, and educational clients. And we stand at the epicenter, our company sits at the epicenter of space, right? How space matters, and can space help leverage business results? And if you understand how to purposefully plan space and then execute that plan in a way that's really meaningful, you hopefully create the right environment for people to do their best work, and that's where we spend our time.
That's great.
A lot of our time.
You know, Steve, and moving these folks inside the organization from one tier to another with regard to leading the business and coaching them and mentoring them has got to be pretty rewarding to you, watching people become leaders inside the organization. How do you do that? How do you sort of manifest that relationship with people? How do you look at someone and say that person has a lot of potential, and I want to spend a lot of time helping them get to the next level?
That's a great question. It feels a little bit like a talent scout. You imagine you're sitting in the stands of a baseball game and you're watching, high school or college ball players, and you're understanding their capabilities, and you're helping, let's say, the major league team that you're employed by figure out if that individual can make it in the major leagues, and what do they have. And there's some stats, right? What do they do, and how quickly do they hit the ball, how fast do they throw the ball, et cetera. But beyond that, do they have the guts, the determination, the stamina? Are they built to be a leader, right? To be successful? And I do believe that leaders can be grown. They're not all made, right? They're not all born as leaders, although there are some born leaders. I think if you're passionate about working on your development skills as a leader, not just the IQ of a leader, right? There are things that you need to understand, but we all talk about it, and there's certainly a lot of news around EQ lately. Mm-hmm. And so the EQ of a leader, and the higher up you go in an organization, the more important that is. So at all levels in the company, we're spending a lot of time, and we've built the company to a point where I and some of the other senior members of my team can really focus on that and begin to think about what does the next generation look like, and how do we build an organization that can far exceed anything we've been able to take it to? And that, to me, that's kind of really exciting.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
It
very
is.
exciting. And that actually gets us to the point of your advocacy here. There are an awful lot of people out there who start businesses and own businesses. We know, and we talked about this before the program, 99% of the time the company dies, disappears. When the owner disappears, when the owner exits, whatever, that's the end for the company. If you're going to build something and have it and make it sustainable for 200 years, I mean, this is a company that's been around now for almost 200 years, you've got to lead it in a different way than the typical person knows how to lead a company. Isn't that right?
It's absolutely right. And I would tell you that in my 30s, I thought I understood what that meant, and I had no idea. I had no idea. And so as you continue to move through any organization, and certainly ours is no different, except that it's got some sincere longevity, you learn how important building longevity is and what that means to the team that you're working for or within, right? So I almost think I'm in service of all the other leaders in the company, and we've built an organization that can work together to make all of us better. But it's hard work. I mean, it really legitimately is hard work, and it's not something that, you know, we talk a lot about working in the business and working on the business, right? And so many people are focused working in the business, and that's that generational leadership, right? One owner, one superhero, he brings it to a point, he leaves, he gets old, he unfortunately passes, he or she, and the business is gone. And that's a tragedy for not only for him and his family, or her and her family, but for all the people that they employed. I mean, we employ 300 people plus their families, right? They rely on us. And so that's the tragedy. And for me, it's not about me as a single leader running the organization. It's about me, a good analogy is, you know, conducting an orchestra of all of these leaders so that we're building longevity. And it's not about me leaving, it's about what I'm creating so that I can leave. That's the value, right? And that's, I think, that's what the smaller business or middle market business owners sometimes miss, right? They're the superhero, and without them, there is no business. I want to develop multiple superheroes and make sure that they all are playing out their superpowers live and in real time.
And you know what's interesting, Steve, that advocacy to me brings on different forms. And you know, when you advocate for others and you're looking at others and helping them with their career path, you've got to, when you talk about emotional intelligence and the fact that you've got to have some empathy for the folks that are coming up in the workplace, understanding who they are as human beings and the things that they deal with on a personal level. Talk a little bit about the fact that, you know, when you advocate for others, what that's like. Well, you say it's hard work. It's hard work. It's not easy to build that team together.
Well, and as evidenced by earlier in my career, I didn't necessarily understand how. Right? I knew what needed to happen, and I knew that we needed to build a team of leaders, but I always say now, the how matters. So
Yeah.
you make a decision, right? You make a decision directionally, you make a decision on a person. How you communicate that decision and how you help that person become comfortable with the decision, either a good one or a bad one, is probably more important than the decision itself.
Yeah.
And I never understood that until, frankly, recently.
Yeah.
And so when I think about the how, to make better leaders and to build an organization. Look, we're a for-profit enterprise, right? We're in business to make money. We support our clients. Hopefully, we do great things. But in the end of the day, we're like a baseball team, right? Going to the World Series. We need the best and the brightest, and we need them to play their best. And so I have this new term, not new, but something I learned from an old Vistage coach of mine: carefrontational. Right? I'm gonna confront you as a leader. I'm gonna help you see what you can't see. I'm gonna introduce you to your blind spots, things that you don't even know that are holding you back potentially.
Yeah.
And when we do that, if I do it in a carefrontational way, you can become better. But you got to be uncomfortable. You got to be comfortable being uncomfortable, and that's where the growth happens.
Yeah, for
Okay.
sure.
That's, I mean, it really speaks to what we do, not on the Advocates, but separately from the Advocates. Mark and Lisa and I are all about the company, the team, the group. So you've got this other personality. It's you and all the people who report to you and your customers. But there's this thing called Danker that is alive and has been alive for 200 years. And you want to make sure that it stays alive. That being kind of the goal. So describe that person, Danker, that person who actually faces the world and makes a difference in it?
We often ask ourselves the question, what if we didn't exist? Would anyone care? And if the answer is no, we're not doing our job. Right, so where do we exist? Where do we live? And why are we valued to not only our clients, that's the first and most important group of people, but equally our employees, right? If we don't have great employees who love the company, we don't have a really good shot at creating value on the outside to clients and proving to clients that we're worthy, right? If you don't love what you do, it's really hard to love the customer that you're doing it for. And so I think it starts internally, and it's as you said, it's just hard work, and it's something that it takes a lot of iteration, right? It's just, I'm throwing all these buzzwords. Success is messy, right? You iterate and you change and you do and you learn through that process. And if you're willing to get in the game and get dirty, and dirty by I mean get your hands dirty, then you're going to grow, right? You're gonna create success if you have the right sort of due north. And to me, that's aligning people in that way and helping them understand that, you know, we're here to build a successful organization and successful teams and successful leaders. And so how do we do that in a way that brings everybody along? And the personality of Danker is, you know, we want to make sure that we love what we do. I say to all our employees all the time, I actually want you to love the company. And I mean that in a platonic way, but I want you to love the company. And we'll do everything we can to help you love the company. Because if you love the company, we just have a much better shot at being successful.
Yes.
We didn't invent any new technology. Right?
Yeah.
This is about service, it's about application of products, it's about design thinking and thinking around the interior environment. But in the end of the day, it's really the application of those things through people.
Yeah.
That's great.
And you know, Steve, one of the things that we talk about often is, you know, connecting the head with the heart. So you connect the intellect with the heart, but then the implementation, the how part, is it often is fleeting in companies. You know, it's how do we develop that how, so that you actually make the changes necessary. So as you mentioned, you know, the true north, we call it the North Star, it's the same thing basically. How do you get everyone to actually make the changes necessary in the business daily so that they become, you know, that organization that you say they love, they really enjoy being there?
The first thing is you can't legislate it. If you legislate it, that's your first mistake. You have to inspire it. And inspiration is different than legislation. Legislation is I have to work here and I have to do what you tell me. Inspiration is I believe what you believe and I want to do an awesome job where I can, right, in my role, so that we together can be better.
Yeah.
That to me is fundamental in any business.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think the other thing is, and I learned this too, again, several mistakes, eventually you get better. You feel like at the top of any organization or in a leadership role in any company, you feel like if you've explained the strategy, you know, if you have the, you know, here's our strategic plan, and you tell them, okay, everyone gets it,
Everyone
right?
gets it.
Yeah, I got it, I built it, we built it as a team, so now everyone gets it.
Right.
You got to tell them again, ask them what they heard, tell them again, and by that point, they're finally sort of beginning to understand what exactly it is we're trying to do.
Yeah.
That's that clarity that you need to get.
Yeah, and it's the messaging and the cascading of messages and teaching the other managers and leaders that it's just as important to talk about what we're doing. That's half of the job, but why we're doing it and where they're connected to why we're doing it and connecting those dots. And I think new managers in any company, certainly in ours, new managers and new leaders don't understand, I was one of those, right? Don't understand necessarily how important cascading those messages are so that you have the context for the content. That's huge. It's huge.
Well
And
said.
That's
I
really well
only
said.
recently learned that,
know,
so I'm sharing all of the things I didn't
Yeah,
do well.
things you didn't know when you were 30 and you know now in your
It's
50s.
good. You know, I know we're coming up on a break, but before the break, and maybe a little bit after the break, the nuts and bolts of it, the day-to-day. Danker, obviously, as a person, has evolved in 200 years. I mean, you mentioned you don't make the technology, but your people do select from current
100%.
materials how to keep the promise. And the promise, it sounds like you make, is that you're going to design an interior space for me and outfit it for me in a way that completely supports what I'm trying to do and the people that I've hired to get it done for me.
That's well said. Can I have that?
Absolutely. And I wish you'd
video.
take it. But so how do you? So you need to keep a fresh. You have to keep fresh eyes on this all the time, and that's not just you. That's everybody who reports to you.
Yep.
How do you allow people to evolve that way to make those changes?
Build an environment where it's okay to make a few mistakes.
Okay.
Right? If you're trying something new and you're afraid as hell to make a mistake, you're probably not going to try very hard. Right? You're going to stay in your lane. You're not going to do anything unique. We generally encourage, one of our values is it's okay to make a mistake, right? Just don't make 1,000 of them. Don't make 1,000 of the same ones. But let's learn from those mistakes, right? What can we learn? There's certain places where we don't want to make a mistake. When we're specifying the components that we're sending to a manufacturer, we want to get those right, because if we send them wrong, they're going to make them wrong,
Yeah,
and that's
sure.
really costly. So we have some systems to sort of check and double check those things. But beyond that, taking risk and being in an organization that feels that it's okay to take some of those risks as a leader, as an employee, right? I think those are critical things. I also believe that people closest to the problem usually have the best ideas. I walked into a meeting once several years ago, and I was late to the meeting, and I was just sort of blessing pricing or where we were going after some big proposal. And one of our administrative folks, it was 15 people in the room, and we had this final strategy meeting, and I said, well, we should probably put the spreadsheet in this format and do this. And she blurted out, no, we can't do that. That would be wrong. That's not. And she sort of
caught herself.
Right. And I said to her, no. She was, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like the CEO's in the room, I can't say that. And I said to her, no, you absolutely have to say that.
You've got the guy in the room who needs to hear that.
Yeah, because I'm the guy that needs to hear it. And whatever I told you was completely wrong, and we would have probably gotten thrown out. But because you said what you felt was necessary, because you understood that there were certain criteria for how we put the spreadsheet together and the information, she was right. And thank God she was willing to say something, because the worst organizations are ones where the boss comes in and says, this is how we're going to do it. And everyone goes, yep, absolutely, sir. And they know it's dead wrong.
Yeah.
That's when I've worked for a bunch of companies.
That's
like
the
that.
legislative side of it.
Sure.
Where you're legislating and not,
Yeah.
inspiring,
Yeah.
which we talk about all the time.
Yeah.
We're going to be right back, folks, after this message from our wonderful sponsor, which I forgot to mention in the beginning when we brought us in. But the Kessler Foundation is helping people with disabilities.
Every day.
Every
Great
day.
people.
They're an amazing organization. Run by an amazing human being, Roger DeRose, and a very wonderful team. So thanks to the Kessler Foundation. But we'll be right back after this message from them with more from Steve Lang. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
The Advocates is sponsored by the Kessler Foundation, changing the lives of people with disabilities.
Do you or someone you know have a brain or spinal cord injury, multiple sclerosis, or autism? We are looking for research participants with and without these conditions. By volunteering, you can help researchers develop new treatments, and you will be compensated for your time. Enroll in a Kessler Foundation research study today at kesslerfoundation.org/join. Do you or someone you know have a brain or spinal cord injury?
What makes a Wawa Club? Is it the crispy bacon on the turkey BLT? The endless layers of flavor of the buffalo chicken salad? Or is it a secret handshake? Nah. At Wawa, there's a club for everyone. Find yours today.
We ride for those who died. The Police Unity Tour and RVN Television is bringing to you a show called On Your Honor, Straight Talk. And I'm your host, Patrick Monturi. I am a retired police chief from Florham Park, New Jersey, and I am also retired from the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial in Washington, D.C. I am currently, for the last 27 years, the CEO and founder of the Police Unity Tour. And this show will bring to you straight talk about law enforcement, the actions and heroism that is provided to you, the citizens of the United States, as well as their actions in falling in the line of duty, as we could see some of the stories that surround that. Again, please watch us on RVN Television and be safe. Take care.
At Jersey Mike's, they slice your order fresh right in front of you. And let me tell you, watching that can send a rush of emotions through a person. Excitement, impatience, baby-like wonder, indecisive, anticipatory chewing, nervous pacing, happy claps, and finally, jealousy. Because that's this guy's sub. I should order one. Good idea. Sliced right in front of you. It's a Jersey Mike's thing. A sub above.
What makes a Wawa?
Welcome back to The Advocates. I'm your co-host, Mark Iorio, along with Al Cini, and we're talking to Steve Lang. Steve is the CEO of Danker. Again, thanks to our sponsor, the Kessler Foundation, for all the great work that they do
Great
and for
sponsor.
sponsoring our program.
Terrific support.
When you are merging or acquiring other companies, Steve, where the growth, you got organic growth and then you have growth by acquisition. How easy or difficult has it been to maintain the culture of Danker with those new acquisitions? Because a lot of times you have brand new people coming in. They're not really used to the Danker culture. But, as a leader, you got to make sure everyone is kind of, they merge into that culture, right?
Yeah.
It's tough.
One of the hardest things, in fact, I'm sure there are articles that are being written on this, the math of an acquisition is the easy part.
Yeah.
And again, it's something I never knew,
Yeah.
30 years ago. Like, "Oh, how do you get the math
Oh,
to
yeah.
work?"
Yeah.
The math's the easy part.
Sure.
It either works or it doesn't. It either makes sense or it doesn't, and there's a return on that investment, hopefully. The culture is the hard part. And we've done a fair amount of growth. We've done some organic growth, but we've done a fair amount of growth lately through acquisition. Our industry's going through a somewhat of a consolidation, and we've been on the right side of that and in a growth mode. One of the hardest things, though, is to get everybody back to rowing in the same direction. And some of the folks that we acquired were our competitors.
Yeah.
So it's a space that we're in, and we're sort of just growing organically and through acquisition. The first thing I always say in these, and not that I have a ton of experience, but we've done a fair amount of acquisitions. You have to earn trust. You can't ask for it, right? You can ask for it, but that doesn't mean they're going to give it to you.
Right.
You have to earn it. And earning trust is more behavior. It's not what you say, it's what you do, right? And I think that's probably one of the most important things. And there are inevitably a little bit of this turf war, which manager, which director is going to get the job. And we're trying to build, as we continue to grow through acquisition, we're trying to build more of a systematic approach to acquisitions that gives everybody sort of a fair shot at who should be in a leadership position and who should take over that role. Because in a few recent ones, we had people that were, both could be capable. In other cases, we have someone that just emerges as the right leader. It's the hardest thing. I say a lot about culture. It's the air you breathe. You can't necessarily see it, but if it's cloudy or if it's smoky or if there's a problem with it, right? You just, it's not right.
Yeah.
And you have to attack it by having really legitimate conversations. And I think the leaders need to be vulnerable. In any acquisition, in any leadership role, I think vulnerability is super important. But being essentially more vulnerable with the company you acquired and the leaders that are part of that company gives them a sense of not comfort, but security that they can also be vulnerable to, right? You're opening them up to say, hey, let's talk about what might be bothering you, right? It's something that you lived for 20 years this way and we've lived this way. Yeah, in the same relative industry, but it's different now. So how are we going to create the better, right? And the irony is, Danker's existed for all these years, and our culture, you could say, has evolved. It hasn't significantly changed, but it has to grow and adapt based on where we are and who's part of the organization, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
So that's again, that's the work, right? That's the hardest part of any acquisition is getting the culture right and getting people aligned so that they're inspired.
Yeah.
And that word inspire, I think, is such an important word because ultimately what you want is for people to want to do it.
Right.
And it's not enough that they just understand what needs to be done. They have to really care about it enough. So you go through an acquisition and you get somebody who maybe used to be a competitor and maybe they're not so crazy about the whole idea that now all of a sudden they work here. You also mentioned carefrontational. Every now and then you've got to have a tough conversation with somebody about whether they fit. How long do you wait for that conversation? A huge mistake is to put that off, I'm assuming. I mean, that's a mistake that you can make. How long do you wait before you have that conversation?
Let me count how many I made, and then I'll tell you what the right answer is.
Okay.
No, listen, I think, again, leaning into things that make you uncomfortable. We had a business owner who joined the organization on an acquisition, and he was our direct competitor for 2 generations, he and his family. And it just wasn't a good fit, right? And we both knew it. And so the sooner you have the conversation, the sooner you are carefrontational about talking about it, right? Talking about the things that you don't want to talk about in a safe environment. Like, what does the future look like? Like, go out 3 months, go out 6 months. And what I always say to our teams, and what I've learned over the years, is the sooner you start the conversation, the more time you have to allow it to play out. You know, business, right? We're running a business, we're trying,
Right.
and you wait till the very last minute, and now you're in panic mode. You got to get rid of so-and-so, or you have to move so-and-so into a different role.
Right.
And now it doesn't land well, right, to that person. So the sooner you have the uncomfortable conversation and you're open about it, right, and you have the gravitas to have that type of conversation, the easier it is to help navigate that. It's a safe environment that says, look, in the end of the day, you may not belong here, or you may not be here, but we care enough about you to make sure that you're going to be somewhere else that's intended for you, and we're going to give you the time and the energy and the support to go do that.
That's
Hard to do, but it's really important. I think people respect that more when you do it.
Well, that's an important lesson for people watching the program. If it's something you feel you need to do and you're putting it off because you're afraid to do it, that's a mistake you're making.
Well, and so to counter the mistake, start.
Yeah.
Start.
Yeah. Start
Have
the
a conversation. Hey,
conversation.
something's wrong. Hey, I don't know. It's not going the way we thought. Something's wrong. How do you feel about it? Yeah, is there something wrong too? Yeah. Maybe you find that you just found the new avenue to inspire them and it's going to work.
Yes.
Or maybe you're defining,
Maybe
okay,
it's just not
here's
right.
the cross in the road. And then it's the follow-up conversation. So the people that wait, it's intimidating, right? You're scared. You don't want to do it. So just start.
Yeah.
Start. That's
Start.
good advice.
You know, we're coming down to the end of the program, unfortunately. I mean, we could sit here and talk to you all day about this, Steve. I really wanted to turn the attention to when you deal with, we're talking about employees, but you're also advocating for clients. When you look at, you go into a client, a large healthcare, pharmaceutical company, a medical office building, or whatever it might be, educational facility. What you're doing is really helping that organization bond together by doing the work that you're doing, and that's got to feel pretty good. That really does. I mean, the gratitude that you probably feel, and having that level of care when you're working with those
The
organizations.
pride in the result, too.
Yeah,
I'm
there's a
sure.
whole lot of pride.
Yeah, I always thought about what would I be like if I were leading an organization that manufactured widgets. I would probably find the passion around the widget.
Yeah.
But we are creating an environment where people do their best work, and we're doing it for some of the biggest corporations in America, and I'm so proud of that. And ironically, what I keep telling our teams, we know more. I often say we forgot more about the interior space and how to leverage space than they ever knew.
Yeah.
Right? We are the experts, and along with our partners, and I always like to say our team says we're the best supporting actor. Right? We work with architects, we work with engineers, we work with real estate people, but in the end of the day, we pull all that and bring it together. Literally the stuff that shows up, and for me, that's the most important or the best time is like move-in day.
Yeah.
Right. Because they come and they see this great new space, and and so teaching them how to use the space, teaching them what are those new social norms within the space, and how are they able to, that to me is, that's where we do our best work. That's where it's really a lot of fun.
That's
Great
great.
having you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Great interview,
Great
Steve.
interview.
Thank you.
Yeah. Look in that camera and tell everyone how to get in touch with Danker and Steve Lang.
Danker, we are very simple. www.danker.com, and that's DANCKER.com. Thank you.
And you're on LinkedIn as well?
LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Danker at 1829, I believe.
Perfect.
By the way,
Love it. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. It was
Appreciate
fun.
it.
That was fun.
Terrific program.
All right, folks. Thanks, buddy. That is a wrap for the Advocates. Thanks so much for joining us. Check this organization out. They have been around since 1829, and Steve's an old friend, and just really proud of the work that they have done over the years. And check them out on LinkedIn or on danker.com. We'll see you next time on The Advocates. Thanks for joining us.